Hey everyone, this is Brother Kyle. I hope you're doing well and you're handling the storm well. Looks like we are in store for a long, cold time. It's going to be at least a week with temperatures under freezing and likely more. But it is Kentucky, so who knows? Within the next 10 minutes, it could be, the mid 70s or something. Um, I want us to, since we weren't able to have worship this morning, I'd like to share just a brief word with you, particularly from the Word of God. I want to be in the Gospel of Matthew. I think what we'll do is we'll take this in parts as we go. But it's Matthew chapter 8. I want to begin in verse 18. Now, when Jesus saw a crowd around him, he gave orders to go over to the other side. And a scribe came up and said to him, Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go. And Jesus said to him, Foxes have holes, birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. Another of the disciples said to him, Lord, let me first go and bury my father. And Jesus said to him, Follow me and leave the dead to bury their own dead. I will confess to you that of the four of us in our family, I am the one most likely to get stir crazy during storms. So we've been here all day yesterday. We'll be here all day today. And by looks of things, maybe here all day tomorrow. I don't know. Um, but I'm the one that is most eager to get out. And so what I'll do is I'll start by going out to make a path for the cars. Yeah. And so I'll start digging and I'll start the cars and clear them off and all that. And then that won't be good enough. And then I'll say, well, let me see how our street is, and I'll walk up and down our street and and see how it's going. And then I may get to the end of our street and look at the main road, think, well, um, I just want to see what it's like. And then eventually I may get the car out and, I get stir crazy. And so I'm usually the one that is um, voluntarily asks, would anyone like anything from Kroger or McDonald's or Starbucks or gas station or whatever? Just sort of get out. I'm the one that goes stir crazy, and it means that I am not the one that is the best at storms. That's a me problem. I suspect that is true for a lot of us. It is hard for us to simply do the simple things. It is clear that we are to stay home. The roads aren't safe. As I record this, I'm looking at traffic cams here in Frankfurt, particularly up the road from here, and we don't need to be out in that. It's a simple expectation. It's a simple way to serve our community for those who have to be on the road, is for the rest of us to just stay home. I struggle often with those simple things. Discipleship, at its core, is very simple. It just means to follow Jesus. You'll notice here that early in Jesus' ministry, which is what Matthew 8 is recording, Matthew 8 records the first of a series of miracles. Now, miracles are referenced prior to this, particularly the virgin birth and other stuff. But in terms of miraculous narratives, Matthew 8 is where they all begin in his gospel. So you get the cleansing of the leper, the healing of Peter's mother-in-law, the healing centurion servant, that sort of stuff. But stuck between these narratives of miracles is this right in the center of the passage is this exhortation of what discipleship is. And so a man comes, and a scribe at that, and he says, I will follow you wherever you go. And Jesus says, will you? Foxes have a place to stay, birds have a place to stay, but I don't. Is this the sort of life you want? Are you willing to do the simple thing, following me? Even if that simple thing is dangerous. And another guy comes up and says, Look, I'm willing to follow you, but first let me go do this thing. Now, a lot of people read the let me go first bury my dad and think that the man's father has just passed. He wants to hold his funeral. That's probably not what's actually going on here. What's being described is the man is wanting to wait till his father passes so that he has financial security. Let me make sure I take care of this, and I've got my uh, estate planned. Then I can retire early and dedicate time to you. Jesus makes it clear that the call of discipleship is a call to follow. Now, this is where I think Matthew is brilliant. So if you think of chapter 8 as a sandwich, on one end are miracles, on the other end are miracles, and right here in the middle is this section about discipleship. But let's keep reading, and we get two miracles that follow this command. So starting in verse 23, we read this. When he got into the boat, his disciples followed him. And behold, there was a great storm on the sea, so that the boat was being swamped by the waves, but he was asleep. And they went and woke him, saying, Save us, Lord, we are perishing. And he said to them, Why are you afraid, O you of little faith? Then he rose, rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. And men marveled, saying, What sort of man is this, that even the winds and the sea obey him? Now, did you note that little detail in verse 23? Remember that what we read first was about discipleship, and at the core of discipleship is to follow Jesus. But then in verse 23, the narrative moves from the exhortation to the illustration, if you will. And verse 23 says, Jesus got in a boat, the disciples followed him. That's what disciples do. They follow. Now, these disciples got in a boat, not knowing what was about to transpire. And remember, many of these are fishermen. They've been in this boat. In fact, it was probably one of their boats they were getting into. We've uncovered these sort of boats. They hold about 10 to 12 people, what we would expect. They know nothing of the storm. They know nothing of what awaits them. All they know is that wherever Jesus goes, they want to be right there. Now, the storm itself is a fascinating text. Um, for one, it shows Jesus' uh, sovereignty over creation. That is true. But there's more going on here. In order to grasp what is going on here, we have to read the next narrative. So, starting in verse 28. When he came to the other side, so he's calmed the storm, he's on the other side of the sea, to the country of the Gadarenes, two demon possessed men met him, coming out of the tomb, so fierce that no one could pass that way. Behold, they cried out, What have you to do with us, O Son of God? Have you come here to torment us before the time? Now a herd of many pigs were feeding at some distance from them, and the demons begged him, saying, If you cast us out, send us away into the herd of pigs. And he said to them, Go. So they came out and went into the pigs. Behold, the whole herd rushed down the steep bank into the sea and drowned in the waters. The herdsmen fled, and going to the city, they told everything, especially what had happened to the demon possessed men. Behold, all the city came out to meet Jesus. When they saw him, they begged him to leave their region. So notice that the citizens of the Gadarenes don't want to follow Jesus. In fact, they want to expel Jesus. So you can see how all this fits. You have Jesus, I'll follow you anywhere, but first let me do this. It's not discipleship. And then we get the story of the disciples following Jesus to a boat, and they encounter a crazy storm. And then we get a story of Jesus cleansing a man, liberating him from the demonized, and he is expelled. So we see a picture of what discipleship is, what discipleship is not. However, the beauty of this is that Matthew takes it to a whole nother level. This is what I love about the Bible. You can read this text at a very simple level, and that's great. It's about discipleship. That Christ may take us into the storm, but he is the one that takes us out. He is the Lord over the seas. He is the Lord over the waves. He's the Lord over his creation. He is also the Lord over the supernatural world. There's more going on here. We read this as three sections: discipleship, the storm, and the demonized men. Matthew wants us to see these last two miracles as one grand narrative. In fact, if you read the story again, one of the things you'll notice is that the sea narrative, the miracle itself is anthropomorphized. That is, that human attributes are given to the storm that don't make any sense. Notice that Jesus rebukes the storm. That doesn't make any sense, does it? To rebuke implies like you're speaking to an entity, but it's a storm. It's the wind. It's just a bad time to be out at sea. But he speaks to it, and you'll notice that it says, "What sort of man?" man is this that the winds and the sea obey him? That's verse 27. Obey. Again, it's anthropomorphic language. Just take the time to read this, and you'll notice there's a plurality of people in the boat crying for redemption. Lord, save us. We are perishing. And then so Jesus saves uh, uh, saves the disciples from the storm, and then we get this narrative that is rather simple. For example, Uh, he comes to the country of the Gadarenes, two possessed men, demonized men, I should say. They're coming out of the tombs, the place of the dead. That's noteworthy. And they come to Jesus and they know exactly who he is. They are the first people to recognize in Matthew's gospel who he is at its core. He is the Son of God, and he's come for judgment. And when they say, "Look, now's not the time to condemn us forever. Send us into those pigs." So what you have then is unclean beings put into unclean animals in an unclean city, and they are cast into the abyss. But notice, Jesus doesn't rebuke them. He he just says, "All right, fine, go." It's simple. All the action is in the storm, and we would expect it with the demonized men. But it's as if the demonized men, like the disciples, are saying, "Save us. We are perishing here." They are living among the dead. So what are we to make of this? Scholars have long noticed that we read the calming of the storm as a miracle over nature, and the cleansing of the demonized men as a miracle over the supernatural, when actually they're written to be the same way. Christ is rebuking the storm as if it is itself a supernatural attack on him and his disciples. We are meant to see it that way. The two are connected. And so we see Jesus' absolute, unquestioned authority over nature and over the supernature. We see him Lord over all. That's the real beauty of it. But some respond with faith. Who is this? That the storm and the waves and the demons obey him. Others respond by rejecting him. Who is this man? I don't want to have anything to do with him. And those are your options with discipleship. Either you follow knowing the risks, or you refuse to follow, choosing to dwell in the tombs. This is discipleship. It's not that hard to understand. The difficult part is doing the simple thing. For me, it's staying inside. For all of us, it's following Jesus. It's simple, but so hard for us to obey. Whenever we get storms like this, particularly in the wintertime, there is one story that comes to mind, and you all can probably guess what it is. It's not Tolkien, it's Lewis. It's always going to be one or the other. So it's not Middle Earth, it's Narnia. In the most famous and widely read and reproduced book of the Narnia Chronicles is, of course, The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. And in that story, when the Pevensey kids find themselves in Narnia, it is described as always winter, never Christmas. And so the first scene we really get next to the lamppost is of Lucy encountering Mr. Tumnus the fawn. And you remember he's known for his umbrella. What's with the umbrella? It's snow. It's just snowing constantly. It's just always winter. It's never Christmas. Meaning that that at the heart of winter there is always the joy, the looking forward towards Christmas. And and that is taken away from them. Why? Because the evil white witch rules over Narnia. But the first sign that Aslan is on the move is that the snow starts to melt. Before Aslan is seen or heard, before he makes an appearance, before he speaks, before anything, spring arrives. In the movie version, which is a good rendition of the story. It's not perfect, but it's good. One of the queen's minions takes off his coat because he's getting hot, and she gives her this gives him this evil look, like, "How dare you insult me like this?" When Aslan comes, there's no more winter. There's no more storm. What you get is peace. What you get is spring. What you get is beauty. But first, we have to follow him. So, while we may be hunkered down in a bad winter storm, hopefully this is the only bad storm we get this winter, I want to encourage you. Follow him, the one that calms the storms, liberates the demonized, and with him comes spring. Hope to see you all soon. Stay safe and warm.